In the following presentation, I will explore how, through the application of Buddhist principles, we may aid children to flourish holistically, how to become empowered in an integral way, and have a spiritually meaningful and enlightened start at the early stages of their development. In Buddhist philosophy, the three interconnected bodies that constitute an individual, namely body, speech, and mind, will be used as a template for introducing some practical guidelines of enlightened parenthood through physical, mental, and spiritual nourishment. In order to provide children with a complete and rounded education, we have to strengthen and integrate all three aspects into their daily life. I'm not a trained teacher, nor a parent. I work as an holistic therapist, and I'm trained to see all aspects of the body, mind, emotions, speech, illness interconnected. Through my experience the last 15 years working with adults and children, I have noticed the tremendous potential children have for spiritual development and happiness. Buddhist precepts are ideal for this. Because of the short time I have, I will focus briefly on the power that nurturing touch has on infants and children in general. I will also say a few things about play, singing bowls, recycled toys, connection with the earth, selecting our food, and the role these have on educational and spirituality, and the development of ecological consciousness, happiness, and universal values of compassion, reverence, responsibility, critical thinking, and kindness. As His Holiness the Dalai Lama have said, in this century there is much more self-centered attitude that gives rise to more depression, fear, and distrust. Suicide amongst youth has increased, and there is more anger, dissatisfaction, and dysfunction in families and community. We need to pay more attention to education, develop more affection and kindness, peace and compassion. Individual happiness is very much dependent upon community, because we are interconnected, interdependent economically, environmentally, and in many other fields, and it is important that we take care of the rest of the world and to develop inner beauty, inner qualities, inner peace, and happiness. There is great importance and a sense of urgency to bring the Buddhist principle of compassion into education. Various disciplines have now been well researched and validate the benefits of such practices as mindfulness, contemplation, reasoning, relaxation, and yoga, and on the development of compassion and awareness. Neuroscientists agree that our brains are made to change, that they have plasticity and are constantly changing. A child's brain continues to develop long after birth. During the preschool years, 90% of brain growth occurs. The experience a child has in the first few years of his or her life creates the connections between brain cells and develops the foundation for relationships and learning throughout life. It is critical that parents and educators provide positive experiences and environments for the optimal development of children during these important years. Nutrition, sleep, regular routines, physical activity, play, and repeated positive experiences with caring adults strengthens the connections to create the growth of a brain and its parts that will enhance all areas of learning and emotional self-regulation. Growing brains adapt to the environment they are exposed to, and it is just as easily to adapt to a negative environment as to a positive one. Ideally, we can start the process of educating and imparting imprints on children while still in the womb. A mother nurtures the coming baby through her voice, her body, and her mind, for example, by selecting what she eats, thinks, speaks, and does at all times. After birth, there is a variety of nurturing techniques, including breastfeeding and infant massage. For the first 2 years of life, the social dynamic and the bond that occurs and the intimacy that happens between mother and child is most important. It leads to a bond of trust and the foundation of all high learning later, including the assimilation of positive values in life, such as compassion, loving kindness, caring, and more. Short regular massage sessions in the classroom benefits children's behavior and well-being and also teach them to respect each other's bodies and to think about the needs of others. Massage increases levels of the feel-good hormones dopamine and serotonin in the brain, as well as oxytocin, which relieves stress and is believed to help humans bond with each other and help children to become happier, calmer, and more focused. Mahatma Gandhi said, "If we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with children. And if they will grow up in their natural innocence, we won't have to struggle, we won't have to pass fruitless idle resolutions, but we shall go from love to love and peace to peace, until at last all the corners of the world are covered with that peace and love for which consciously or unconsciously the whole world is hungering." There are schools which have demonstrated surprising results in the intellectual and spiritual development of children, having the vision to bring compassion and spirituality in education based on Buddhist principles that include introducing children to the nature and workings of their mind and teaching them universal values such as honesty, generosity, love and harmony with each other, nature and all of life. Buddhist principles provide consistent and gentle guidance to help children recognize for themselves which actions bring them happiness and which actions make them feel diminished and unhappy. Moreover, using yoga practices, meditation, guided visualizations, breathing techniques, moral stories, attention exercises at the beginning and end of each class bring awareness to the child's state of being. There are many benefits in discussions centered on self-inquiry, on questions about life and death, thoughts and feelings, which help children to acquire important skills to handle life by maintaining a positive attitude, concentration, control over their emotions, and working in cooperation and collaboration with others. These educational approaches can remedy and prevent psychological distress and behavioral disorders of students, and in the long term, they can help them to achieve personal and social existential happiness. The main purpose of education is to... The first step in teaching compassion to children is to help them recognize their own emotions, and the key to develop compassion in life is to make it a daily practice. This can start from parents and educators who should serve as models of compassion. This can be done by uncovering the mechanisms of empathy, by asking children to ask themselves how others might feel and encourage them to express their own thoughts about how they think others might feel in a particular situation. They should also be encouraged to draw and illustrate their emotions, to play the roles of expressing different emotions, and afterwards to describe how they feel. Developing a language for mental experiences gives children more chances to understand and regulate their different emotional states, and to recognize them when they see them occurring in others. The ultimate lesson is to demonstrate in various ways how to ease the suffering of others by focusing on making others happier through kindness, through gestures, since that will make children happier in return. We have to teach them how to be happy by understanding the nature of suffering, which stems from a preoccupation with oneself. Furthermore, happiness is contagious. If we know how to be happy, then we know how to put an end to our suffering. Following the Buddhist teachings on no-self, when we give something, it is important to do so without putting an importance into our actions. We must teach children to give without expecting anything in return, not even to be thanked, since this is how we can help them develop giving to others with detachment and from the bottom of their hearts. And the perception and the perfection of generosity can be applied in a variety of ways, including words, silence, forgiveness, offering time and space, and even a smile. Children are seldom taught about the origins of their cultural values. The effects of media and advertising on their desires and behaviors, or the ways in which societal values influence individuals. Similarly, they are seldom taught where their clothes or food comes from, how the products they use are made, where their trash goes, how their electricity is produced, or what effects common chemicals have on the environment. Children are not even taught basic information about the ecology that underpins their lives. But in order to be able to make responsible choices in their lives, they need to have such information, which is also the basis for critical thinking. There is a Vietnamese saying, "When eating a fruit, think of the person who planted the tree." Living in such a way, we can introduce the Buddhist notion of karma and our own responsibility for the world we live in. Though this may be a hard concept to explain, we can begin by teaching the important values of reverence, protection, and honor. When a small child feels reverence for goodness, for nature, for the diversity of life, for individual rights, she will likely grow up and have compassionate choices, and respect will follow fairly naturally. If children learn to have reverence for other species, showing respect will mean that they won't destroy or pollute animal habitats or knowingly participate in cruelty. It is much easier to promote respectful attitudes and behaviors among children who feel compassion, wonder, and awe. And students who actively endeavor these positive attitudes are emotionally healthier than those who don't. Their lives increasingly reflect compassion and kindness, and they are much more happier. Play is also very critical to healthy human development, since it transforms the quality of life. According to Rike Hengelar and Inge Melsen, a child develops natural curiosity and intense concentration when his attention is really captured. This can be ordinarily achieved with toys, and these don't have to be expensive ones, but toys made in a simple and cheap way from local materials collected from our everyday environment. Helping to make toys from recycling and reused stuff for oneself and other children can be just as educational and fun, as well as a very good practice on how to become environmentally and socially conscious consumers and to discover how resourceful we can all be. Moreover, it gives to children the initiative to appreciate their surroundings and to respect nature, learning from a young age not to consume, use, or waste resources without consideration of the consequences. There is another tool that comes from the Buddhist tradition that helps in a playful way to develop this practice. It is the Tibetan gong, the singing bowl, the mindful bell, or any other name we like to call it, that has been used for the practice of meditation. It creates moments of quiet, rest, and mindfulness that support classroom environments. When we hear this bell, we can let go of everything, close our eyes, and come back to our body and to our breathing. Through mindful awareness, children can recognize that they can control how they respond to situations, even if they cannot control the situation itself. To bring awareness to what happens in their mind and body, not to control their mind, but to transform it. Singing bowls can also be used with different ways, as a healing object or as a toy that can help them to hear their own music and to follow their own rhythm. The vibration of the singing bowls can bring a state of alpha waves that is the state of deep meditation and can help them to keep alive the connection between the sky and the earth, their mind and their body, and to realize that there are many different realities outside. Our relationship with nature is also based on listening and understanding. If we encourage them to be in touch with nature, when they grow up, they will find it difficult to harm the trees they have planted, the animals they hugged, the plants whose healing power they have been connected with. Given the environmental problems we face today, it's even more urgent to educate children on environmental values. We can do so in a variety of ways, for example by establishing community school cleanup days, taking care of stray animals, and freeing others born in bondage, feeding birds and other animals, planting seeds and trees. Integral to this understanding and education is the introduction of tactile sensory experiences and play. These include collecting natural objects, making mandalas on the earth, looking for patterns in nature, the sky, the clouds, the reflections in water, taking barefoot walking, and many more. The practice of non-harming, a fundamental value of Buddhist teachings, refers not only to the environment but to all beings living in our blue planet. Food is the food from our cosmos. As eating is central to our lives and something we all do several times a day, vegetarianism provides an ideal example of compassion in action in a personal, direct, and tangible way. When we open the door to altruism through our food choices, we lay the groundwork for our children to explore and act upon all forms of compassion. Compassion for themselves, including their physical, emotional, and spiritual health, compassion for other people, compassion for other animals and life forms, compassion for the earth and the ecosystems that sustain all living beings. Vegetarianism is not only a diet, but has the potential to provide lifelong good health, inner peace, moral congruity, and it is also the gift of life and compassion for all. What we eat and drink, and the way we do it, profoundly affects our physical and mental well-being. Children need to be taught to be in touch with Mother Earth when they eat, to be there and have a mindful meal. The Buddha specifically advised us to eat mindfully so that we can maintain compassion in our hearts and ensure a good future for the next generations. He taught that if we take a short-sighted and selfish approach to the food and drink we consume, we will hurt not only ourselves but also our children and our planet. Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "There is a tremendous change that is coming to the mind clarity if we just only turn our normal diet to a better vegetarian, more organic and purest diet." Children can be taught from the very early age to prefer pure nutrition without added sugar or other chemicals, to honor and respect, appreciate and thank for whatever food they have, to take the amount they can eat and not wasting food. Engaging them to prepare the food with us, cooking can become an important educational time for instilling important values, as well as for relaxing the mind and nurturing the soul. Using mantra, prayers and love, the act of cooking can involve the consciously wish and intention to heal and nurture everyone who will receive the meal and turn it into a merit-accumulating activity by offering the meal to all beings, many of which are hungry. However, mindful consumption is not only about what we eat and drink with our mouth, what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch and think, all that we sense in our body and all that we become aware of with our mind is food for our sense consciousness. If we live in a neighborhood with violence, then we consume violence. If we live in a community with peace, harmony and love, then we consume love. The Buddha said, "Nothing can survive without food." This is a very simple and very deep truth. If we do not nourish our love, it will die and may turn into hate. If we want love to last, we have to nurture it and give it food every day. Hate is the same. If we don't feed it, it cannot survive. Nourishing our bodies and mind with wholesome nutriments will help us to achieve peace and happiness, and it is important to realize that the mind and body are not separate. In the age of mass-produced food, it is important to protect ourselves and much more our children by being selective with the kind of nourishment. If we don't respect our body, we don't respect our mind. There is a need through education to teach how to take care of our body and our health. A very interesting pedagogical work has been done with the Healthy Communities puzzles. The Healthy Communities puzzle comprises a set of 2 colorful puzzles. It was designed to help make health lessons easy. One puzzle details all the components of an unhealthy village, from a dirty river full of dead animals and rubbish to bored children throwing stones through the windows of their closed school. There are shops selling 2-minute noodles and sweeties instead of champa and fruit, and no one is visiting the gompa. The second puzzle describes a healthy community. Cooperatively owned shops and businesses, volunteers teaching agricultural techniques at an ecologically sound experimental farm. There is also a thriving monastery and nunnery. The puzzles are the focus of a fun learning activity which teaches the differences between 2 villages, the people and their healthy or unhealthy behaviors. A key aspect to living healthy is understanding how our bodies and mind are interconnected. Cultivating a deeper understanding of how thoughts and feelings can impact our health will help us to become the master of our body and health. Meditation gives children a sense of peace and direction and helps them to focus and calm the mind so that they can look within themselves and see things as they really are, in their true nature. When children successfully keep attention on their breath, negative thoughts fade away and positive remains. The awareness of breath becomes their best friend, always on hand to help them in difficulties, to slow down when they are overexcited, to become calmer when they are upset, and to release the tension from their body. The ancient wisdom of Socrates is well known. All I know is that I know nothing. From this admission arose some important consequences for those involved in education. We have to bring our students to an awareness of this truth, help them to see that we cannot know that which exists outside our minds, and that our minds create the world. In this way we can guide them how to become the master of their mind. And being masters of our mind, we are also masters of our speech. From the Buddhist point of view, right speech is an important aspect of the Eightfold Path, to know when it is proper not to speak at all, and when it is proper to speak only at the right time. The first step to learn mindful speaking is to learn to be silent, and then to learn to listen. The inability to listen to others and the unmindful speech can cause so much suffering that only by cultivating loving, truthful speech, using words that inspire confidence, joy and hope, and compassionate listening, we may relieve suffering and promote reconciliation and peace in ourselves and among others. In order to develop right speech and right listening among children, we can use games. We can use, for example, the alphabet to teach children Buddhist perceptions and values. A for awareness, B for beneficial, C for compassion, L for love, and so on. Or, for example, one being the ear and the other the mouth. Noticing and commemorating the positive instead of negative, and sending good wishes. The best way to show children the great power that words have in their life is to encourage them to apologize rather than blame, to avoid words that can harm others, to sing songs of appreciation, to repeat mantras and prayers, even silent prayers, and to make dedication of gratitude. Complaining does not change people. If something cannot happen in one way, for sure it can happen in another way. When we use loving speech, we can water the good seeds in our children and inspire them to do as we have done. With right speech and by following our own practice, our children will see and they will follow us. Words are the vibration of nature. Beautiful words create beautiful images. Ugly words create ugly images. We need a new language, the language of the heart. We need to teach them that we are all joined together like the rings of one chain. We are connected with each other like the hands, the legs, the eyes, the stomach are connected with the whole body. Having children imitating the parts of the body, the birds, the trees, as parts of a bigger body, will help their understanding of the interconnection of everything. This will inspire them in the future to make choices to benefit other people and to become members of the new we generation. Buddhist philosophy is an inestimable treasure for educating the body, the speech and the mind of the children. The most important is to encourage children to come to know their mind. If their mind is polluted, the world will be polluted. If we want to protect the earth from global warming and environmental disasters, children must learn how to control and purify their inner world. Mathematics and science are important to pass the exams and to get a temporary job, but the most important thing is to understand what happiness really is and to pass the life exam to achieve everlasting happiness. In this talk, I try to show some practical ways we can incorporate Buddhist teachings in education. I believe that we can succeed as educators if we show them how to live a simple life, how to preserve their smile and their innocence, how to become old with dignity without fearing death, like most people do, and how to live in harmony with nature, respecting the environment and loving all creatures. These are universal values beyond the domain of religion. They are precious in a world that has almost lost them and desperately needs them in these difficult times that we face ahead. Education can teach children how to be happy, to grow happy, and to make the whole world a better and happier place. Thank you.